Dr. Muthulakshmi Madam, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Our resource person also has joined, but he will, I think, stop the annotation. If he shares this, then only he will be able to do. Professor Kandaraja sir, will you be able to restrict the annotation? Annotate.
Okay. Where do I restrict it? I don't see any option here, sir. And more, I think probably I have to do it. Okay.
No. First you share. First you share your screen. Then you will see that option, 3 dots.
Okay, just give me a moment.
Settings, in the settings, you can find annotate option, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Just give me a minute. I'm just.
Yeah.
Is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. It's clearly visible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
The PPT first slide is visible, sir.
Okay, madam. Now, should I stop the annotation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have removed the annotation. Do you have the option of annotation on your screen?
No, it can be done by only admin.
Okay.
Sir,
now I have disabled it, madam. I have disabled it. I have said disable the annotation for others. I have disabled it.
Okay.
Now
done.
correct, sir. Now correct. I don't have option now.
Okay.
Done.
Dr. Kanifnath, I'm ready. Whenever you want me to start, we can start the session.
Dr. Muthulakshmi Madam is main person of like moderator. So she will start soon. I
Shall
think
we start, sir?
3 minutes are there. So can we utilize this time?
Yes, sir. Please, we can start.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Because it's already live on YouTube and it's already recorded.
Let the participants join meanwhile. So we'll start. Dr. Kanifnath.
Madam, unmute now.
Dr. Kanifnath, sir. Sir, in the title, it is given as day 2. Can you change it to day 4?
Yeah, no. Now it can't be changed. Tomorrow maybe I will change.
Okay, fine. Okay, sir.
But on YouTube I have changed. On YouTube I made it day 4.
Okay.
Here I don't want to, because it's already very well set. So I don't want to disturb anything.
Okay, sir. Okay. So let us start with the session. So, a very good evening to all the dignitaries, respected resource person, faculty members, and dear participants. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the 4th session of the Faculty Development Program, which has been progressing meaningfully with rich academic deliberations and insightful discussions over the past 3 days. Now, today's session focuses on a highly relevant and future-oriented theme, EdTech-driven pedagogy, designing smart, inclusive, and adaptive learning spaces. In an era where technology is reshaping educational landscapes, this topic is both timely and essential for educators striving to create a learner-centric, equitable, and responsive teaching environments. We are privileged to have with us our eminent resource person, Dr. KMC Kandaraja, Assistant Professor of English at the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Design and manufacturing. Kanjipuram, Chennai, is known for his thoughtful engagement with technology-integrated pedagogy, making him eminently suited to guide us through this session. Here, I would like to furnish an introduction about our today's distinguished speaker, Dr. KMC Kandaraja, sir. Dr. Kandaraja, sir, is an accomplished scholar and educator in English language studies with a strong interdisciplinary orientation encompassing socio-linguistics, discourse studies, multilingual education, gender and language, language policy, and English for academic purposes. He currently serves as Assistant Professor of English at the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Design and Manufacturing, Kanchipuram, Chennai, where he is actively engaged in teaching, research, and academic leadership. He holds a PhD in English Language Studies from the University of Hyderabad, awarded in 2023, and has also benefited from international academic exposure through the Erasmus Mundus Namaste Doctoral Exchange Program at the University of Warsaw, Poland. His academic formation includes an MPhil in English Language Studies from the University of Hyderabad and an MPhil in teaching in English as a second language from the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad, for its critical engagement with language ideologies, classroom discourse, translanguaging practices, and issues of equity and social justice in multilingual educational contexts. He has been the principal investigator and collaborator on several prestigious research projects funded by the British Council in India and the United Kingdom, including international comparative studies on gendered discourses in English language classrooms and innovative projects on designing trans-language learning materials for multilingual Indian ESL classrooms. His scholarship is published in reputed peer-reviewed journals and edited volumes with contributions that address critical pedagogy, language planning, classroom democracy, and learner and teacher attitudes towards English in India. In addition, his forthcoming and accepted works with international publishers further consolidate his position as a significant voice in contemporary applied linguistics and language education research. So beyond research, Dr. Kandaraja has extensive teaching experience across premier institutions, including the University of Hyderabad, IIIT Hyderabad, BITS Hyderabad, and Central University of Andhra Pradesh, spanning undergraduate, postgraduate, doctoral, and professional programs. He has also contributed substantially to online education, material development, textbook design, and teacher training initiatives. His academic service includes mentoring teachers under international teacher research programs, organizing national conferences, and participating in advanced workshops on systemic functional linguistics and materials development. A sought-after speaker, he has delivered numerous invited talks, workshops, and faculty development sessions across India on academic writing, language policy, critical discourse analysis, translanguaging, and AI-assisted academic practices. Through his sustained commitment to research excellence, pedagogic innovation, and socially responsive scholarship, Dr. KMC Kandaraja sir continues to make a meaningful impact on English language education and applied linguistics in India and beyond. So here I would like to hand over the session to our distinguished resource person. And before that, I'm very confident that today's deliberations will offer valuable insight into the effective integration of educational technologies, inclusive instructional design, and adaptive learning strategies that respond to diverse learner needs. On behalf of the organizing committee, and the institution. I extend a warm welcome to Dr. K. M.C. Kandaraja sir and to all the participants joining us today. I wish the session every success and look forward to an enriching and interactive learning experience. Now here I would like to hand over the session to our eminent personality, Dr. KMC Kandaraja sir. Here is your virtual platform, sir. You can proceed with this.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. First of all, good evening to all. It's a busy schedule you choose to attend this session. Thank you, participants. And I'd like to thank the organizer for inviting me. And I'd like to thank Dr. Lakshmi ma'am for the kind introduction. So I would place myself as an early career researcher in the field of applied linguistics. As you are all, I'm also exploring this field of edutech and also trying to practice from my limited experiences in different contexts. Okay. So let's delve into today's session. And the topic of today's session is EduTech driven pedagogy. The title talks about designing smart, inclusive, and adaptive learning spaces. As defined by the person who introduced me, they talked about today we will talk about how EduTech can be understood, how we can maximize it in our own context. That's what I'll be talking about in this lecture. And I work as assistant professor at IITM Kanchipuram. And moving on to the next slide. Yeah. Okay. Now, I just wanted you to reflect and to start with, we'll just start with the, let's start with the brainstormer. Could you all respond to this question? The question for you is, what is educational technology? What is edutech to you? Option A, using computers and tablets in classroom, integrated use of technology, pedagogy, and content to enhance learning, online courses and learning management systems, any digital tools used by students or teachers or students. It would be great if you could respond, key in your responses in the chat box. So in this session, I would like to emphasize that we'll be having it more like a dialogic process. I'm getting few responses. I would like to receive more responses. Yes, yes. As most of you have rightly guessed, it's very, very important to understand what is edutech. So it's not mere the technology, as you have rightly answered, integrated use of technology, a pedagogy, and content to enhance learning. There's no one right or wrong way. There are multiple ways to do it. So within that part of it, within the larger domain, online courses or flipped classroom or any digital tool can be part of a edutech. So I just want to check, am I audible? Is my screen visible? Just give a thumbs up or just say yes in the chat box. Is any? Yes, thank you. Thank you. So now let's move on to the overview of what I'll be talking about today. So today is the overview. First, let me talk about what overview of the today's talk. I will talk about briefly about what is edutech, and then I'll be talking about TPAC framework, which has been designed. Then what is design principle, and what is inclusive design, what is adaptive learning, and what is emerging trends. And then finally, I'll talk about challenges and pitfalls. And then I'll conclude my session with a conclusion. So to move on, introduction. This is one of the common definition. I found this definition to be interesting. Educational technology represent ethical study and application. It's very important. Ethical study and application of theory, research, and practice to advance knowledge, improve learning. Talk about idea of practicing advanced knowledge, improve learning and performance, and empower learners through strategic design, management, and implementation and evaluation of learning experience, environments using appropriate process and technological resources for technological resources. This is a definition given by Association for Education Communications Technology. If you look at this definition, it's tightly packed. It talks about theory, it talks about practice to advanced knowledge, it talks about improving learning, and it talks about empowering students to strategic design, management, and evaluation of learning experience. So EduTech, what I'm trying to say is that it's much more multidimensional than a traditional teaching. So EduTech is multidimensional and it's quite challenging as well. So that is what I would like to infer, and it has multiple, we have to approach it or we have to understand it from multiple perspectives. So what are the key components in any EduTech? The first one is the hardware and software. That is the technical aspect of it, the computers, tablets, the webcams, simulations, learning management systems, AR, VR environment, or nowadays even what we can call the language models, the LLM models, large language model are focused with basically the LLMs are based on which we use AIs. So that is a very one element of EduTech that is also equally important. Then pedagogical methodologies. It's about what kind of pedagogical methodologies you try to do. So evidence-based instructions that incorporate technology. So there are many different pedagogical approaches. So a core elements are hardware and the software part of it. Then the pedagogical methodologies, how are you trying to understand the pedagogical methodologies will determine how you understand the content and how you want to present the content to the learners. Then the third important aspect is the theoretical foundation. How do you theoretically view learning? Are you trying to view learning from a behavioral or from a cognitive perspective, or is it a combination of all? So what's the theory a particular edutech is trying to take? Then we talk about the assessment and analytics. Initially, it was only analysis and assessment. Now it's assessment and analytics. Assessment is about testing the student's performance. Analytics is will give an information about how the learning process will happen. For example, I can give you a simple example. You may have you may have an online lab. So when you look at the backend data will clearly show us how much time students are spending on completing this activity. Then you can have an average time. Okay, averagely students are expected of spending 20 minutes on this task. Maybe sometimes they might be spending more than that. Then the administrative systems. So these are the five core elements of EduTech. So all these components are equally important. Infrastructure support and educational ecosystem. For example, many participants in this group may have good understanding of hardware and software. Some of them might be very good at pedagogical methodologies. Maybe all of them, you also have a fairly intuitive understanding of theoretical foundation. But most of the times we don't have a greater administrative support, or we don't have the infrastructure to participate or let's say implement EduTech. But nevertheless, we can keep trying and to implement EduTech process in our own context. Okay, so now moving on. Understanding EduTech in practice. So understanding EduTech in theory is very different, and understanding EduTech in practice is very different. Educational technology, basically what is EduTech? EduTech technology investigates the process of analyzing, designing, developing and implementing and evaluating the instructional environment. Okay, what is the meaning of instructional environment? Basically how we teach, how do we interface, and it involves multidimensional. What kind of learning materials we give to them, how do we treat our learners, what kind of agency we provide our learners, and how is the learning process conceived by the researcher or the teacher. So how do we look at it? So all these things are very important when we are practicing EduTech in our own context. So till this point, we have looked at few definitions and few broader understanding. Now I will go into more specific aspects of this talk. Okay. Now there's one more question for us. Understanding EduTech driven pedagogy. How do you understand? When you think of good teaching, what comes to mind first? Options given to you are subject matter expertise, teaching methods and strategies, and use of technological tools, and all three equally integrated. What do you think is your first hand? What do you feel is important currently? I'm sure you all have a greater teaching experience. What do you think is important. Yes, I could see different answers. Maybe we will look into that as well. Yes, if I have asked people 10 years back, 10 years definitely back, when primacy was always placed on subject matter expertise. Then sometimes people people talked about teaching methods and strategies. Now, in this era where the digital technologies have improved a greater extent, now I would say that it is all three equally integrated. That is the crux of edutech. So the edutech in a traditional classroom, the expectations can be A and B. The use of technology can be minimal. But if you are a teacher or if you are an education institution which aspires to build an edutech driven pedagogy, then you may need to equally integrate all. And that is what we will try to look in this session. So I would say that currently any teaching context is expecting you to integrate all three equally because of multiple factors. Because we have large classrooms, we have our students' attentions are getting very shorter. All of us are complaining that we are not able to grab students' attention. So we are in a very visual world. So all these things, maybe we need to take care of them into account. So when I refer to edutech, I'm not referring only to the AI-driven medium. Edutech is largely very broader understanding of how do we bring technological integration into our language teaching. Okay. So the answer is all three equally integrated. Okay. Now, what is edutech-driven pedagogy? Digital pedagogy refers to a pedagogic use of digital technology or study how to teach using digital technologies, aiming to achieve effective teaching by appropriate leveraging the affordance of digital technologies. What do we mean by appropriately affordance? Generally, what happens when we talk about edutech is most of us as a teachers get carried away by some tools, or we try to hop between tools. We've been using some tools and we move on to some tools. We don't understand or we don't put the tools build into our course. So in my lecture, I'll try to show how we can build tools into our own courses. So the key principle this is a key principle which all of us maybe need to reflect on. Technology is not the goal, but it's an enabler. No, so some of us we get very carried away by the idea of technology, but we don't understand that technology is limited, still limited, but it's only an enabler. For example, when I talk to my own PhD students, some of them say this that, okay, why don't we learn completely with ChatGPT? Why don't we use ChatGPT learn language? I said, technology is an enabler, but it cannot solve all the problems. It cannot give you all the necessary needs, and especially. So that's why we need to keep in mind that technology is not the goal, but it's the enabler. Edu-driven pedagogy focus on how technology transforms and enhances teaching and learning practices. So the entire idea of edutech is that it is enhancing in what ways? Only if it's being implemented appropriately, only well given thought is given into developing an edutech will be successful. Or else, like any traditional classroom, even edutech can lead to lots of complicated problems, and it can also lead to disinterestment among our students. So it is very key important point which I like to reiterate again. Technology is not the goal, it is the enabler. So any teacher should not get carried away by a particular tool, but we have to understand what's the purpose of that particular tool. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about four important core components of any edutech. First is pedagogical knowledge. What is pedagogical knowledge? Simple understanding how people learn. So we need to understand this pedagogical knowledge is important. How do people learn? Every individual is not going to process a content or a language in a similar way. There is going to be individual variations and multiple factors are going to affect. That is what we mean by pedagogical knowledge. We need to develop a sense of pedagogical knowledge. Second is content knowledge. Most of us are master in this area because we all come from a particular disciplines and we know the subject knowledge well. That's the reason why we have been qualified as a teacher and we try to do that. So content knowledge is never a major problem. Most of the teachers might have a content knowledge. Now, the challenge is how this content knowledge is converted into pedagogic knowledge is a key challenge. Some of us may like to stick to mostly our own styles, but we may not be trying to cater to the needs of the students. Next, the third important knowledge a modern teacher need to have is technological knowledge. A technological knowledge is not just using digital tools, it is also to understand what is behind each of these tools and how these tools can be integrated into your courses. So the last key element is a successful teacher is the one who integrates all content knowledge, a pedagogic knowledge, and synergistic this combination of all three. Maybe just before moving on, can any one of you just point out and say what is pedagogic knowledge? Can you give me an example of a pedagogic knowledge in the chat box? What is pedagogic knowledge? In your understanding. Maybe in chat box. Knowledge management of classroom management. Okay, okay, partially. What is any other insights into pedagogic knowledge? Method? Yes, actually, teaching method. It is not subject knowledge. It's about how do we deliver those content? How do you design your content? For example, let me give you an example of a grammar class. Some of us may teach grammar using an inductive approach. Some of us may use a deductive approach. To put it simply, some of us might give an example, make students do lots of tasks, then derive rules. Some of us might give rules, then try to give lots of practice exercise. So each of this has its own advantages and disadvantages. That sense of knowledge is called pedagogic knowledge. So where all the time, in all the context, all pedagogic knowledge will not be successful. It depends on each classroom you may have to apply. For example, I can share from my experience. Whenever students are very proactive, whenever students have a high level of motivation in the classroom, a deductive learning is very, very effective. For example, I will give them 3 paragraphs to read and I'll ask them to focus on what's the content and also make focus on the language. I'll make them underline, I'll make them focus on aspects, then I'll try to derive the rules. So, but this will not work in all contexts. For example, when the student's motivation is low or when the proficiency is low, then I prefer a normal method. So this is what we call a pedagogic knowledge. I'm sure most of you all have the idea of what is pedagogic knowledge. Implicitly, we may not know the technical term, but I'm sure most of us have the idea of pedagogic knowledge. So now, when it comes to edutech, pedagogic knowledge is equally important as content knowledge. And how do we combine both pedagogic knowledge and content knowledge into technical knowledge? That is very important. So now, moving on to our framework. This is a framework given by Professor Mishra and Kohkar. They talk about the framework. They talk about TPAC framework identifies 3 domains of knowledge need to successfully integrate into educational technology. One is the content knowledge, which the subject knowledge, which you are the expert. Second, the pedagogic knowledge. For example, what do you teach? Simple question. Next, how do you teach? Then technology. What tools could enhance this? So this is what they call the TPAC framework. All these things work together. So to make ourselves understand better, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Please respond to these questions to make our understanding better. Read this question. The question is, which type of content do you primarily teach in your course or class? Select all that applies. There are so many options are given for you. The first one is factual knowledge. Second one is conceptual understanding. A third one is procedural skills, how to do. Fourth one is metacognitive knowledge, self-reflections, learning strategies, critically thinking, make them understand, go meta. Fourth one is applied skills. Fifth one is creative and design skills. Sixth one is collaborative and social skills. Then last one is technical or specialized skills. So now the question is, what kind of knowledge you use? You can choose more than one. Please select all that apply. Yes, this also implicitly refers to Bloom's taxonomy. I wanted all of you to read it more carefully, and it will not be one type of knowledge. There'll be a combination of knowledge depending on the subjects you come from. For example, if you are writing about a creative writing, I would say it will be more about metacognitive, and it will be a creative, and it will also be collaborative. Now, I wanted each one of you to reflect. It's very important because we need to reflect. You can say A, B, D, E. Give me the alphabets alone, which is a predominant type of content knowledge you use. Which type of content do you primarily teach in your courses? What type of content? In one course, don't go for a very generic one. You might be teaching 4 courses. Do you think the knowledge content discussed in all 4 courses are the same? I would say that it's very difficult to do all at one go. Depends on the course, it may vary very differently. And most of you are giving one answer and may not be one always. It may be a combination. Yes. B, C, F, and G. Yes. Conceptual. Yes. Yes. And this combinations will keep changing depending on the group, depending on what is the course. Maybe you might be teaching an MA course, you may have a different approach. For example, I can give my own example. When I teach phonetics, when I teach linguistic course, a very linguistic course, the key concept will be first focus will not be on factuals, it will be more on conceptual understanding. Then procedurally, how you analyze the data. Then it will be metacognitive, then it will be applied. If it's an introduction course, there will not be much on applied creative. It may be very limited, but it will be A, B, C, will be B, C, D will be more, and E will be limited because first it's understanding concepts. So each course it will vary. For example, for my another course, let's say if it's a general spoken English course which I'm teaching, it's basically procedural skills and applied and professional skills, creative skills, and collaborative and social skills. Then the entire order change, the entire knowledge change. So any teacher cannot say, I'll be using only one kind of knowledge. Yes, you might be using all. You also may be clearly using one particular for one particular course. If it's an applied course, it's a theory course. We make those depending on this, as you rightly said. Yes, depends on the course, we do make a change. That is a fundamental understanding we all have, and we all are good at it. So that is the first important understanding, even in a edutech. So edutech is not about tool, it's about first understanding what type of content we teach. Good. So moving on to the next question. Yes. Now, which teaching strategies do you currently use in your instruction? Select all that applies. Again, it's not one answer. And please, it's going to be running for 2 slides. So please make a note of these, all the options, and try to look at direct instruction, lecture method, inquiry. There is no judgment against any of the teaching. Every teaching strategies has its own benefits and own. For example, I do lots of lecture for one class, and it's a mix of all. So what you are able to, because of the contextual limitation, will also limit you. If you have a 120 students, you cannot go for a collaborative project. Your teacher will be heavy on it. It's context dependent. So choose the strategies which you use. It's running over to 2 slides. First, make a note of what is there in this first slide. Direct instruction, inquiry-based learning, problem-based learning, project-based learning, collaborative learning, flipped classroom where content delivery is outside the class, application during the class. That's something which people work on engineering. And collaborative learning, everything happens in the class. Collaborative work, group activities, that's called collaborative learning. Project, where the students do project, which I see it in more engineering colleges are more into this kind of mode. Yeah, I request people not to answer it immediately. There are more strategies to come. Please make a note of all these strategies. Then look at this next strategies also. Yes, there are more also. Experiential learning, hands-on learning by doing real experience. Then differential instructions tailoring to individual students' needs. Are you doing that within the class? Or are you using a Socrates method, discussion-based dialogue? For example, when you are doing a PhD course, I use the Socrates method. Or else if you're working in a management school, you might be using a case-based learning. So they say why this company is failing, why this company is doing well, why this company is always top ranked. That is possible. Then are you doing gamification? Are you using gamification? Are you use game-based learning? Or are you going by competency-based skill learning? Yeah, it may confuse us. Yes, sir. It may look confused. Yes, but I would suggest you to do is that don't go in a very generic manner. You try to think about, okay, this is the course I'm keeping in mind, what I'm doing in my course. Each of them have its own pro and con, and there's no judgment against each of this strategies, because some strategies will work in some classes, in some classes, depending on the course you're teaching. For example, I can share what I do in my course. So I am currently teaching a course called Professional Communication. I do 1 hour lecture method. Even in that lecture, what I do is that maybe I will go back and show you I'll give my strategies. uh, what do I do is that I use a half an hour of lecture method, then I'll move on, and I move on to collaborative learning. I put them into lots of collaborative learning and also inquiry based learning. I ask lots of questions. Then that is what happened in first session. Then when I make them do a lab activity, what happens is that I kind of use a competence based learning. So I use a lab where they go with competency based learning, and they also do sometimes engage in discussion. So I would say for my course it'd be A, B, E and L for this course. Now I teach in another course called Theories of Second Language Learning. That is a PhD level course, and I have 4 students attending it. It's a small group. And on the other hand, professional communication, I'm teaching it to 93 students. Now, when it comes to PhD course, I use a Socrates method, a discussion based. They have to read and come, and we all discuss concept by concept and add to it. So here it's more of Socrates and discussion based method, and it's also some element of flipped classroom, because everything has to be read before and they have to come to the class. So that is the kind of learning will change depending on the course and depending on whom you are teaching and depending on what kind of skill you are trying to learn. Now, always keep in mind there's a direct connection between what kind of content you choose and what kind of teaching strategy you will be implementing. There is a triangulation. That is what we call TPAC method. Now, moving on, I'll ask one more question. Which categories of educational technology do you use? Or are interested in using? Sometimes you want to use, but you cannot use. It again goes to a list of tools which you can use. Do you use an LMM, learning management system like Canva, a Blackboard, Google Classroom? Do you use that? Or do you use interactive presentation tools like Mentimeter, Nearpod, Peer Deck, Kahoot? Or do you use video sharing like YouTube, Loom? Are you creating your own videos? Are you using collaborative platforms like Google Workspace, Microsoft? What do you use? Then are you using assessment tools like Quizlet, Socrates, Formative, Automated? Yes, absolutely you're right, sir. Uh, we don't have choice, but I'm saying if you are interested in using, what would you use? Yes. Simulations like virtual labs, then high-end adaptive learning platforms, which are now coming in AI platform. I know that some of you might not be using it. What are you interested in using it? And we as a teachers, unfortunately, in an Indian context, we are not blessed to use more technologies because one, they are expensive. Second, it's too time consuming to integrate them. And I have more tools also. I'll just show you more tools also there. If it's an engineering course, they use coding and programming tools. They use multimedia creation tools like Canva, Adobe Creative Suite. They use digital visualization is also used whenever you use with statistical data. Then there's an upcoming area of augmented reality. So So you show them, you can show them a 3D model of something. Then we all use AI-powered tools like ChatGPT, which everyone is using these days. Then discussion and communication tools and digital portfolios like we have WordPress. Students, they display their own projects. Then content curations like Wacklet. So it's a wide variety of tools you have. Now, what I want you to think is that one end you have content knowledge, one end you have methodology knowledge, and one end you have technology knowledge. Now, yes, you're right. Actually, the creativity is getting suppressed in work environment. And now think of how do we bring it together? Why is it a necessity to bring it together? Now, these three things has to be brought together fundamentally when we are thinking of edutech. It is not always we have to think about how do we understand. These are the three pillars of edutech: content knowledge, technology knowledge, and methodological knowledge. Now, let's say we cannot have all at all. Sometimes we have institutional limitation, as Ramamurthy sir talks about. For example, yes. Now find your TPAC intersection. What is your TPAC intersection? Combine your selection for one course. Keep one course in mind. How are you making this combination? What is your content? What is your pedagogic knowledge? What is your content knowledge? What is your pedagogic knowledge? What is your technological knowledge? How are you combining? Some of us may not be very comfortable with technology, but we might be learning. Some of us might be using, we all might be learning, or we all might be using in some ways. Now, I wanted you to not to type it out, maybe a moment to think about what kind of tools we are using. How is this intersection happening in your own respective courses? Maybe is it possible for the audience to unmute and speak, sir, for a minute or two? Maybe 2 or 3 participants can share their experience. Is it possible? Yes. Maybe I don't want you to give a generic your teaching practice. Give me a course and say in that course, how are you combining content knowledge, pedagogic knowledge, and tech? Even if you're not able to combine technological knowledge because of limitation of management, please do mention that. But what you would like to do? Yes, madam, please.
Good evening, sir. So I deal with strategic communication for professionals. So in that particular course, as it is a combination of communication skills as well as soft skills, first I focus on the content. I try to make sure that my students will understand the basics about the professional ethics, soft skills, and how communication is correlated. For teaching methods, I use activity-based learning where students will collaborate with each other. As again, I deal with engineering students, so we have huge number of crowd in the classroom. So I divide them into smaller groups, and we try to make sure that whatever group is being formed, it is mixture of all kind of students, low, medium, as well as advanced learners, so that everybody will able to learn and they'll able to enjoy with each other. Then during this group discussion, sometimes I provide them some minor or micro projects where in that group itself, they work together, and then in the end of their work, they are supposed to present it. And for technology, I use different stimulators, AI stimulators. For an example, Udly AI, which is live speaking coach is there. Then there's another stimulator AI, which also helps them to provide hands-on training, and it gives them a real-time feedback when they are working on their communication skills. So even while, for an example, instead of normal presentation, I keep speech tech competition. So it intrigues students a lot, and they find it something new and exciting. And I try to correlate it with the outer world. For an example, I give them an example of StarTech India. So they think that, okay, this is something they are, outside everybody is using it, and they correlate it with it, and they try to participate more.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. And you can also, whenever as a teacher, you can see that, go back and see how the content knowledge is contributing to pedagogic knowledge and how it's contributing to technology. Already you are making an intersection. Maybe you can see what is not working in your class and then rework on what content knowledge, how you want to rework on the content knowledge, how you work on it's like it's in a continuous evolving process. What works for one group will not work for the other. That's why it's very challenging. So there are a few comments in the chat box also. Yes, content is key. I agree, completely agree. But today, the teaching scenario is changing. Now, how we deliver that content with the technology in many ways also impacts the classroom, and there is an implicit expectation from the students. How do we do it? So now, this intersection is what is important, and I always wanted you to explore this intersection in whatever is possible. Sometimes, for example, I wanted to use Mentimeter. I used Mentimeter a lot. Now I'm not using Mentimeter, not because I'm not able to purchase Mentimeter because it's not approved part of my. It's not possibly not to do work it with the management. Sometimes it works like that. Yes, yes, sir. It's actually a team tag. You have to combine them. Only when you combine them, it becomes the model. So there's no fixed rule for it, but you have to combine this model. Now, moving on, I'll talk about the next important aspect. Now, this we have already talked about the discussions. Now I'll move on. How do we design the pedagogy? This is the key important point. How do we design our course? So now, understanding learning design in digital age. So as we know, there's something, we'll have two group of thoughts. For example, some of us feel content is very superior. This content is definitely superior. Teacher needs to have that. Now, the design thinking, how you design a course needs to have empathize, understand your learners. Yes, market expectation is also there, but beyond market expectation, understand your learners. For example, I have a group of students who comes, this is a triple ITDM. So there are, in terms of hierarchy, IITs are first, then students go to NITs, then students come to triple ITs. And it's one of the fairly good triple ITs, which focus on design and manufacturing. I teach engineering students. Now, here most of the students come with a certain kind of low motivation for two reasons. Some of them could not have cracked NIT or IIT, so they settle down for triple IT. So they are a bit tired in overall. Then second, they also largely talk about burnout. They have been studying for a long. So we need to empathize with them also. The design has to empathize. Then define and identify the learner's challenge. Now, last semester when we did the first semester course, we challenged, one of the key challenge we identified is that though it's a language course, we felt that motivation is low. Then depending on that, we wanted to work on their motivation also. So define your learner. Then ideate what kind of brainstorming technology and enhanced solutions can be used. Okay. Now in my course, what we did is that we thought students are not getting adequate language practice. So what we did was that we used a free tool called Moodle. We all know Moodles. So we downloaded it and we took the help of computer science department here and we started giving 1 hour of individual practice so students can monitor their own language learning. So this is something which came out of our own understanding of our students. Then create a prototype, created a learning experience. We did that too. We implemented it and now we have fairly good idea what is happening in our course. Now for our next semester, which will start in July, we are very clear how it will work, how we can rework on. Now, sometimes you might ask, sir, is it really possible to do all these in a teaching context? It's not possible. What I suggest is that always encourage collaborative discussion among your colleagues because it's not one man job. It's always a department or a group of people's job. So where it will be very helpful in understanding. So this is how do you build edutech into your college. Okay, so now look at your own context. Don't, for example, don't always go with a pre-existing ideation of what your students. For example, many of my senior teachers say that the students have changed after COVID, and every batch we have a new challenges. So we may have to keep our design thinking always open. It's a very challenge for a modern teacher.
Sir,
Now
I have a doubt.
Yes, yes. Yes, sir, please, you can go ahead. Yeah. Maybe if you are not able to speak, maybe you can put in the chat.
Dr. Kanda sir, please admit. Dr. Kanda sir.
Okay, yeah.
I have put in the chart, sir.
Okay. So how do you modify teaching and strategies for struggling learners in engineering course by using critical thinking? Now, first question, ask them is, do they really need critical thinking? Ask them what they need. When you say struggling slow learners, what do you mean by struggling slow learners? Are you talking about their English proficiency is bad, or they don't have motivation to come to college, or they have been forced into engineering? Maybe dig deeper in that. Then you modify your workouts. Maybe you can go with very simple techniques like storytelling in the class. Maybe we have to reinvent our own strategies. So it's a very huge challenge. So you can work it out. For example, when we started giving lab activities, focused lab activities, the motivation still increased. But definitely there'll be always a pressure in engineering college because they would like to focus more on engineering courses. Engineering students always come with an idea that English is not important for them, which they might realize a bit later. Now, interactive discussions. Now, what is it you want to do? What is it you're planning to do? First, key important, what makes a good learning objective? Now, have a backward designing process. Start with desired outcomes. What I wanted my students to do. That's the same answer I would like to give you, sir. This group, what you wanted them to give. For example, I started with a basic understanding for my students that my expectation is that a student should be able to write at least a paragraph and converse decently in the context. At least they should push from the level. If someone is at a very intermediate level, they should move to a advanced level. If someone is at a beginner level, they should come to a beginner level. I mean, at least the intermediate level. Then determine what is that evidence. How I'm going to determine the acceptable evidence? The evidence is going to be whether they're able to make presentations. Okay, are they able to write small reports? Are they able to read and understand? You determine which is going to be the evidence. If it's going to be an engineering course, you say how they draw circuit diagrams. If it's going to be a chemistry lab course, it's going to say how they are able to bring out the derivatives. You decide. You clearly say this is what I expect from my students. Now, then you look at your own students, say whether is it possible for this, then you revise the evidences. In paper, in syllabus, there may be something. Yes, definitely. If the syllabus has of 10 expectations, maybe you have to settle down for 7. Okay, so for example, when you say give a topic to write an essay, it's very broad for them. Maybe some of them, when they cannot write a sentence, you cannot make them write an essay in one semester, because it's a heavy deal on the faculty to deal with that. In that case, I would say that if the students is able to just write a sentence, maybe if he's write a paragraph, I'll be more than happy. So am I going to only look at writing, or am I going to look at speaking? Am I going to look at listening? So you need to be very clear. For example, to be very frank, for a proficiency to be built in a language, we need 120 hours of teaching. None of us are courses, engineering courses or any college will not go more than 40 to 60 courses. So within this given time, we can only build on what is already given there. And that is only this 120 hours is only for one level of language, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So if we cannot possibly do everything in one general English course, so please settle down for few key objectives. Then plan a learning experience and instruction. What kind of experience you want to give for the students? Are you going to give a lecture experience? Are you going to make it a group discussion experience? Are you going to give a project-based experience? I would say make a combination. For example, last semester we had asked them to write a skit and asked them to record the video of the skit by them. Some of them have done well, some of them have really taken good care. That is one assignment we gave. In one assignment, what we gave is that we asked them to come to the class, we gave them an audio to listen, then we asked them to write a short paragraph on that. Audio, then listen and write on it. Then we had one whole presentations. Then you have to think of multiple learning experience for your topic. Maybe it's not easy all the time, because if you have a large number, it's not easy. Depending on the size, depending on what you can handle, you can do. So the basic message is think backward design processing. I'm giving one simple example of an engineering circuit design course. Traditional objective. Students will understand Ohm's law. Gnitc design should be like enhanced objective. Students will analyze real-world electrical circuits using simulated softwares, predict outcome using Ohm's law, and validate their prediction through virtual experience, demonstrate understanding through interactive circuit design project. Now, see the difference between the traditional objective and the EduTech enhanced objective. How are you combining them? That's why we say the combination. DPACT framework is very important. The technological integration. So Tinkercad circuits, it's again the tool relevant for engineers, maybe not for English teachers. I'm just giving a different example. Pedagogy is inquiry-based learning. Here, look at it. Here, the teacher wants to learn inquiry-based learning, not a lecture-based learning, and a problem solving. A content, electrical circuits, Ohm's law, and circuit. This content will remain the same, but how the content is packed into pedagogy and how those pedagogy is packed into tools is important. For example, you as a teacher believes that I don't believe in inquiry-based learning and I don't have the time for inquiry-based learning. Okay, then combine it with lecture. Within the lecture, how are you going to do it? Are you going to ask questions? So once you start thinking in this way, you can move from a traditional objective by enhancing a EduTech enhanced objective where you are making it a combination of content, pedagogy, and e-tools. And there's no one recipe for it, it's multiple. So this is how, and this is one example I'm trying to give you. Then question is, why this work? Why this works is that students engage in authentic problem solving. That is very, very important. For example, in our professional communications course, what we do is that we give them a video. In every lab session, we give them a video and we say, in this video, you are one of them. We generally give an office meeting scenario. How would you react in this video? So we give them a simulated experience. Okay, I would react in this way. Okay, do you like the way Mr. Drake has spoken? No. Why you didn't like? So you have to ask them. So this is what we call authentic problem solving. Or it can be given in the writing also. For example, what I do in email writing is that generally what we do with the email is that we give a sentence saying that write an email to the collector or something where they write something and we give. But instead, what you can think of doing is that I give an email chain. I give an email written by a client to the customer care sector, and they are complaining about the product which is bought through Amazon, which is not working. Then again, the Amazon person has responded very rudely. Now she has to write a reply first. So they have to read 2 emails and write a reply. Then we are putting them in an authentic problem solving situation. So either in writing or in speaking, or we can give them an authentic problem situation. Immediate feedback through simulation. Here we cannot give immediate feedback because that we can take any tools help. And still I feel your feedback is a larger problem in Indian classroom because the number is huge. Even I am as a teacher, I will not be able to give individual feedback, but we are trying using rubrics methods like that to engage, give them a feedback. So say experimentation without physical risk. So they can experiment, they may not lose. So make them do certain things, combine them with lectures, combine with many things, so that this packing of this information is what is essential of EduTech. Ability to iterate designing rapidly. So always you should be willing to bring in not new tools, new way of delivering the content, new way of integrating the tools into your classroom. It's very challenging. Sometimes it's very limiting also because management may not really always approve. Now the component 2. The first component what I talked about is designing. Second component is content representation, multiple views. This is here EduTech's one of the fundamental principles. The universal design principle for learning, it's not for language learning principle, is that based on neuroscience research that identified 3 primary neurological network impacting learning. Affective network, why? Why should I learn this course? Why should I take this course seriously? Next, recognition network, what? What is this? Second, strategic network, how? So we may need to keep this in the mind. Now, in EduTech, a same content can be represented differently. That is an important part of EduTech. So we are trying to make it relevant for all people. Now, look at this example. Now, I'm going to give an example for teaching past tense. Generally, we teach past tense from a textbook and we try to explain it. Now, how all we can do it? Representation 1. Visual spatial technology, animated timeline video showing action sequences. We can use an animated video like using Canva animation or Portfolio. Activity, what kind of activity you can give? Students create visual storyboard of their weekend activities. How will they do it? What did they do in the previous weekend? That is possible. It's a visual spatial. When you have a student who are visual, wherever it's possible, wherever it's free. I don't want you to spend money, but you can think of it. Okay. If you want to do the same thing in an auditory way, use podcast creation. You can use Anchor or Audacity tools like that. Students record personal narratives using past tense. Okay, last Saturday, I went to a movie. So they can record it and they can send it to you. This is auditory. You can use auditory tools to teach past tense. Next, talking about third, where if you want to have a kinesthetic orientation, what you can do is that if you have a AR environment, AR language labs are there, are many apps are there. You can use Monly AR or Google Lens. Activity students interact with the virtual objects with the interact and describe the past interaction. That is possible. Where it's called kinesthetic, there will be some kind of movement. Then analytical and textual, which we generally mostly we do. You can use grammar analysis tools like Grammarly, language learning apps with AI feedback, and you can ask students to ask them to discuss what's the feedback given there. So students analyzing the news articles, identifying past tense using patterns. So this is basically an analytical textual representation we do in our own classroom. So the same content of teaching past tense can be done in multiple ways. So now you may ask, sir, can a single faculty do all of this? No, they cannot do. Maybe if you're working in a group, try to build lots of systems, maybe work in a group in a college. And so students have lots of way of learning. That is the fundamental core of EduTech as well. Now, discussion point is a mobile assisted language learning has become widely utilized to enhance language learning and language teaching and learning, though integration has been hampered by lack of cohesive framework that balance technology and pedagogy. This is something which I really see in many of the classes. For example, we either sometimes it's pedagogically strong and technologically weak, or too technological and we don't have pedagogical content in itself. For example, when I see lots of app which are coming, you open the app, you cannot sustain the interest for more than 2 days because the app is not pedagogically designed. It's very technologically very superior, but pedagogically very impoverished. So any app or any tool cannot completely fulfill all our needs. Instead, we need to have a mix and we need to have a cohesive framework which works for you. For example, your class, your students or your environment cannot use AR environment at all. Ignore AR environment, maybe use something else. But what is important is the key importance, how cohesively you bring technology and pedagogy together is very important. That is the essential point of discussion of EduTech. And it will not be a straightforward process. It will be a multiple rounds of learning. So this is my third year of teaching in IIIT. And I have quite again changed many of my teaching methods. I am trying to bring in more tools, maybe remove some tools. I'm using some tools because sometimes I really want to use very good technology, but I don't have money or the institution is funding me. But I use for some other moderated technology, but I do involve. So, but I keep changing my strategies as well. Now, moving on to the third component, active learning strategies. How do we engage active learning strategies? Now, principle, learning happens through doing, not just listening. That is very important in today's context where we might be learning it from the lectures, but today the world is a bit faster and people want to get, there are many things happen for this current generation where they have to go through a lot. They process information so much. For example, I'm giving a mathematical example. Teaching calculus, derivatives. Traditional approach, what they do, lecture on derivative rules, work through textbook problems and homework assignment. This is a traditional protocol. Now, if you want to use EduTech, how do we do it? For example, here they're asking the teacher to use a flipped model. Before coming to the class, they're expecting student to watch Khan Academy videos on derivative concept. Then they have tools to talk about the animations. Then what's the activity they're giving? Students complete pre-class quiz identifying the confusion points. There is a pre-class quiz is also given. It's called flip learning. So they understand the concept from the YouTube or from the medium. Then they come to class. In the class, what teacher does is that teacher gives an application question. Students work through adaptive learning platforms like Alki and Map. What students know and what don't know and are ready to learn and create dynamic learning experience. For example, this I see it happening in my institution quite largely. For example, there is a course called on malware. That's a course only on malwares, how to understand malware. So what does the teacher do in this course is that teacher does not explain about what is malware. What he does is that he gives the videos about malwares much before. So when he comes to a lab, what he gives is that he gives a problem with the malware. He has to identify what's a malware. So this is kind of application learning happens in multiple engineering disciplines also. Maybe we can also follow some of them. Then step 3 is that synthesizing. You can make it project based. Demonstrate graphic calculator or GeoGrab on students model real world phenomenon, population growth, motion and optimization problems. I'm saying that it's not possible in always. If the student's motivation is not really much, then it's problematic. But if you already have a different set of students, you can experiment and you can enhance their learning by making them engrossing in real world problems. Okay, now fourth stage is assessment. Even assessment can be enhanced with EduTech. Now, traditional approach, solving test. Option B, creating a video explanation of concept, that can also be assessment, considered as assessment. Option C, designing interactive tutorials for peers. So they can talk about tutorials or developing computational models solving real world problems. They can come up with models, mathematical models to talk about how to control some stray dog population in a district. How they can work it out mathematically. Give them real world problems. That could also be an assessment technique. So now you can see how we have lots of option to move from a traditional classroom to a more interactive or a more edutech driven classroom. So edutech is not just symbolizing inclusion of technology, it's also symbolizing a difference in the perspective. How do we look at it? Okay. Now I'm moving on to the another component called assessment and feedback and the adaptive assessment cycle. So examples for a computer science course, a programming course, a formative assessment, which is a continuous assessment, will be like they'll be using GitHub classrooms, automated code testing, and they'll be using continuous integrated and CI and CD integrated feedback will be instant and automated feedback on the code correction style and efficiency pedagogy. Mastery based on progression, students do not move forward until the code is passed. That is very important. Now, I will give you another example of what I do with my courses. I use Moodle. I give them 3 reading passages, one at the level of beginner, one at the level of intermediate, one at the level of advanced. Okay. Now, in the Moodle, there is a possibility that only I ask them to read and there'll be a set of questions. And once if the student is scoring above 8, then they will move on to intermediate. If the student is getting 6 marks, he has to redo the task, reread it again and get 8 marks, then move on to task 2. Then they read intermediate and again say if they are not getting mark 6, they again do the intermediate. They go above 8 marks, automatically the next level of reading will be open for the students. This is something which I have individually designed for my course here. Similarly, you can think of these are free tools. I am not using any paid tool for Moodle. It can be used, but it needs some planning. So this way we can also integrate it in our language classroom also. Other ways, I can give you some examples what we did with assessment. So we had group discussion with our students. So in group discussion, it's mandatory that you peer evaluate your peers and you also have to give feedback, written feedback with numbers and grades. Then I will combine all of them and then I will give a final grade. So involve have peer assessment as well. That is also possible, especially in coding. Multiple ways of engaging is very important. The fourth component, assessment also has to be taken seriously. Then inclusive designing and ensure access for all. Whenever we talk about edutech, sometimes it's not accessible. So if you are working in a rural area, use tools which can be used by students on mobile. If your tool is not accessible on mobile and if your students don't have mobile or if your students don't have laptop, all these things you may have to rethink or you may have to give some alternatives for them. So I'm not saying completely scrap edutech. I would suggest is that try to give some more possible, whatever possible for them. Then we have universal design for learning in practice. Now, the 3 pillars are that 3 pillars of your universal learning design is recruit interest. Always create interest among your students, sustain the effort and persistent, and help them to self-regulate. One of the key important element of EduTech is that self-regulation. They are trying to promote lots of self-regulation by the students. That's the main trend even from post-COVID. Maybe we may also have to adopt to it. Okay, now Multiple means of representation, what to learn, perception options, language and some symbols, and comprehension. Multiple meaning of actions, physical action, expression and communication, executive function. It's basically how you want to express, how do you want to represent. Sometimes maybe you can give activity which is physically movement is also there. Maybe they want to mentally challenge, you can give them comprehension. Similarly, you can work on it. So challenge, diverse learners need in understanding photosynthesis. Just an example of a concept, photosynthesis. So inclusive solution matrix, engagement layer, interest hook. Students choose food contact, like food product, climate change, biofuel. Technology, choice board on, you can use a Canva board or a Moodle. Connect to student major. Use agriculture as an example, use medicine as an example, or environment as an example. Don't just merely explain the concepts. So this is also very integral part of education. Okay. Representative layers, for example, if you have learners, visual learners, try to use more diagrams, more processing visuals, even how you prepare your PPT, make it more colorful. These days it's very possible with lots of AI tools. Reading and learning. If they are reading and learning, you can give guided text with comments, all these things, hyperlinks. Auditory learning, you can give them podcast to learn. You can give kinesthetic learners, maybe you can give VR lab experience, which are free. And if they are English language learners, multilingual resources, text to speech, maybe you can give informations in their mother tongue. And visual impairment, screen read and high contrast mode. All these things you can do. Basic point is have the content in multiple representations. That is one. Maybe you may ask, sir, I cannot do everything in one lesson. I'm not asking you to do in one go. Maybe 1 year you prepare for animated video and interactive ebook. Then next year you add for podcast. Next year you try to add VR lab experience. So over a period of year, 3 to 4 years, you will have all kinds of resources where your classes becomes more engaging and you are trying to meet the different needs of the students. So you can give the options to the students, choose their own learning styles and strategies. Okay. Now students demonstrate understanding. For example, option A, layers of expression. Create annotated diagram, visual. They write explanation, that is linguistics. They build 3D models, that is kinesthetics. They produce explainer video, that is multimedia option. Option E is code stimulation or process computation. This is another computational option. Designing infographic, design thinking. Depending on your learning goal, you can do it. For example, if I'm a language teacher, I will go with option B. If you are with a different concept and you may have a different teacher, you may go with something else. So depending on your own choices, depending on your course objective, you have to decide your choices. Okay. Always checklist, accessible checklist for EduTech. Is my screen reader compatible with all the students? Is keyboard navigation available? Is capstone or transcription provided? Color contrast meets good because some of them have color blindness, we have to check. Or is it mobile responsive design? I use some app which are good in laptop but not good in mobile. Maybe you have to you should not opt out of that. Offline access option, do they have offline access option? How is the low bandwidth version? Even is it working in low bandwidth? That is also another problem. Many of us may not get. So multiple language suppose do the tools have, you have to think it from all perspective before implementing EduTech into your classroom. So moving on, example of a history class. I'm giving an example. Now, a traditional history class, reading dense textbook chapter, that is possible, we are always doing. In Edu class, what you can do is a primary source document, which can be the textbook, historical photography, you can create a photo album to show about that particular historical events, or you can even generate your ChatGPT generated visuals you want to show it to your students. Then auditory recordings of speeches. Maybe you can put cuts of different speeches of different experts and then make a video for audio for your learners. Then a virtual museum tour. Maybe you can give a AR virtual museum. These days it's possible with AR museum tour and interactive timelines like a kinesthetic timeline. You can just show the order in which the king's years have been present. You can ask them to rework on it. Students created podcasts discussing events. You can ask students to create events. So you can bring up with multiple alternatives by using your EduTech. It may be challenging initially, but once you start have a hang of it, you'll be able to understand how to go about it. Okay. Now, I'm moving on to the next concept called adaptive learning personalized at scale. What do you mean by adaptive learning? I'm not going into this question because we are running out of time. So adaptive learning is how you are learning, making the learning personalizing for the students. Now, this is a new important element in EduTech. For example, first, diagnose where the learner is. Second, learning path customization. For example, in our lab, in lab session, some students might complete 8 activities, some students might complete 4 activities. We are allowing them to access this lab modules from their house also. So they can do it at their own pace, but we are giving some deadlines. You have to finish it before this. So learning path customization, giving more real-time inputs are very important. And make real-time adjustments, how to respond to perform, and it should be data-driven insight. Now, this is a core important element of data-driven insight. Now, what is the meaning of data-driven insight? Now you can go and read the backend data. For example, what I understood is that initially I was very ambitious when I developed a language lab. I thought I'll have 8 modules for my first year students. But what was possible towards the end is we implemented only 5 modules. Completely we used only 4 modules. For example, I understood in my learning by looking at the data that each student is taking roughly around 2 hours 30 minutes to complete one module, which means they have one lab class every week. So roughly they are taking 3 classes, 2.5 classes. So which means in a semester we are getting around, let's say 10 to, it's a 3 credit course. So they are getting around 12 hours of lab. So I'm only able to complete. Then I'm trying to rework on it. So it gives me insight. That is what we call these days in EduTech, it gives you lots of information. So you also see what's the time between what's the range. Some students completed it in 1 hour. Some students are struggling with 3.5 hours. So which is a percentage? Then I can say it's 50-50. So that is also give me an insight how to develop the better modules. 40% request additional resources. 40% feel still finding it difficult. Many things you can infer, you don't need to ask the students. EduTech was more powerful. If you look at it more carefully, you will get the tools. Okay. Now, finally, I'll move on to the practical implementation. How do we practically implement from theory to practice? I'll just show you one course. First, design objectives. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk about designing a smart chemistry lab experience. How do we do it? Example, it's a sample project. Define learning. Students will design and conduct experiments. Students will analyze data and draw conclusions. Students will communicate findings scientifically. It's a very normal learning objectives which we all know. Identify the current barriers. What are the barriers? Limited physical equipment. College don't have limited physical equipment. Safety concern with certain chemicals. I cannot give chemicals to all my students because they are not very serious about it. Time constraint for data collection. Difficulty visualizing molecular interactions. Varied prior knowledge level. Some are good, some are not bad. So these are the challenges. Now, how do I overcome? Then barriers and technological solution and pedagogical benefit. Limited equipments, use virtual labs. Unlimited experiences, pedagogical benefit. You can use virtual labs. Safety concerns, simulations for dangerous reactions, safe exploration. You cannot give dangerous chemicals, but you can give if you use an online virtual lab, they might safely explore it. Time constraint, data collection sensors. So real-time results will be given. Visualization, molecular modeling, which can be visually can be given. Conceptual understanding can be improved. Knowledge gap. Adaptive pre-lab tutorials. You can give lots of tutorials in the pre-lab. So this is something for a chemical engineering. So you can see how technology can address the barrier if you think more deeply. Then what is the pedagogic approach the teacher is trying to take in the course? Is that they're using a flipped model. They watch the procedure, they come to the lab, complete the safety stimulation, take adaptive quiz to enhance readiness, predictive experimental outcome. Okay, what do they do in the lab? Blend physical and virtual. Hands-on with physical equipment where safe. A virtual stimulation for dangerous and expensive experiments. Real-time data collection with sensors, which is inbuilt. I'm sure that we are not at that level, but many contexts people are trying to do this. Collaborative group work, writing digital notes. Maybe we are quite often we are using Google Docs these days. We are very popular with that. And post labs, collaborative and reflective. Data analysis using computational tools like Python, Excel with plugins. We are bringing those post lab scenarios also. peer review of findings, creating multimedia lab reports, reflection on experiential design and improvement. Now, the key point I'm trying to say is that you cannot, though the tools are there, only if the teacher is taking the initiative, the EduTech will be successful. Or else, teachers, it may not be as successful as we expect it to be. Now, as we all know, EduTech has moved very far, and now we are in the age of AI. AI is not, I'm not talking about AI in a sense of where we just go and we are using it as a Google search. I'm talking about AI as a selective AI tools are being coming up, where artificial intelligence is personalized learning has been given, where I'm really looking forward for an AI tool which will be able to give feedback for my students in return, because it's impossible for me to give a feedback for 120 scripts. At the same time, I wanted them to restrict the AI use as well. So many things can take place in a given context. Now, the key changes which are brought up are artificial intelligence in personalized language learning, which all of you are aware of it. Immersive technologies are being brought in, and learner analytics, which I think it's been less talked about. Learner analytics are very important and gives you a very clear understanding where your students are. Then what could go wrong? Now I'm talking about challenges. Technology for technology's sake is dangerous. Many educators have been warned about pitfalls of technology for technology's sake. Because I'm comfortable with ChatGPT, I cannot build an entire course around ChatGPT. That is not a good edutech. This is what the key point. So it should be a combination of different tools, pedagogic knowledge, content knowledge, methodological knowledge, then technology. It cannot be only technological knowledge. That is a kind of, it might lead to escapism. Or you have to give, you as a teacher are still very, very relevant. Only you are going to direct the class, though technologies is an enabler. That's a key point which I would like to bring. Always start with the learning objectives, not tools. If you are starting with tools, if you are getting carried away, then you will miss out the learning objectives. For example, if it's a writing course, the ChatGPT is a very bad way to use a writing course. For writing course, it's not very useful because it gives you it doesn't allow the writer to think. It gives all the things on the ready-made on the plate. So for a writing course, ChatGPT is a detrimental one. Maybe for something else, it's a good one. Ask what pedagogical problems does this solve? Pilot before full implementation. Test it with few people, then try to use it. Have a low-tech backup plan. Okay, always have, okay, if this tool is not working, what will I use? For example, generally when we don't have a Zoom, we try to use Google Meet, which is free. So always have technological backup solutions. Okay, digital divide issues. Always be careful, and many of you might be aware of it. Not all students have equal access. Maybe you also need to help them a lot. For example, sometimes I wonder that sometimes students share their assignment, but they don't give you the edit permission. So you have to instruct them to that level. EduTech, I would say, though it is very enhancing, empowering for students, but it's too much of work for teachers. Only if you love to do it, you can choose to do it. But one thing which I observed when we are trying to implement EduTech in a more strategic way, it definitely enhances learning, but it needs lots of patience, lots of trial and error method, and it will not have one solution for all contexts. It will not work out. So these are things which you can think about in your own context. And the larger challenges, what are the larger challenges? Is that cognitive overload. Sometimes it's overwhelming for the teacher and for the students. So always make sure that the tools which you are using is not cognitively overload. Too many tools will also confuse the students. And feature rich but not effective. Sometimes so many features are there, but the learning is not happening. The complex interface hinder learning. Always be mindful, keep it very simple. Solutions is limit the number of platforms, choose intuitive interfaces, provide clear tutorials, start simple and complex gradually. Start with simple experimentally. If you want to build your course into EduTech model, it will definitely take 2-3 years after 2-3 cycles of teaching. So always be mentally prepared. You cannot do it at one go or multiple times. So we are coming to the end of the talk. I would also maintain a large point that maintain human connection. How much our technology might have come, the teacher role is constantly is getting transformed but not replaced. So teachers are expected to acquire new skills, and sometimes it's exhausting. It also burns us out. But teacher maintain human contact. For example, use technology for content delivery, reserve classroom for discussions, automated repetitive tasks you automated, invest time in mentorship, give the mentorship, enable asynchronous learning, create synchronous communities, provide immediate automated feedback, add personal encouragement. Always don't miss out on the human touch when we use technology. You make it a point to have a human touch. So here I come to end of my talk. I believe I just wanted to give you a roadmap or show. I would basically put it's like a more or less like I'm sharing my personal experience of how did I integrate EduTech into my language learning course. There are two courses. One is professional communication and effective effective language and communication skills. One is a language proficiency based course. The other one is a business proficiency business language course. So in both these courses, I am trying to integrate lots of EduTech. And what I have done is that it's a 3-credit course. They meet me for 3 hours per week. So I have 1 hour lecture session. In that lecture section, I have half an hour lecture, then half an hour interactive quiz in the classroom using Mentimeter. That is 1 hour, which also involves lots of group work. Second is completely a practice session before practice session, we have a lab session. They go to lab, they sit individually, work on their language skills through multiple tasks. We generally give 8 to 10 tasks for 1 hour. Then they come to a practice session. In a practice session, I have my own TAs, teacher assistants. So I divide them into multiple groups and I will kind of put them in multiple groups and try to practice what they have learned in lecture, what they have learned in interactive platforms, what they have learned in lab, then in the practice in a simulated environment. It is very challenging, but I keep trying. Sometimes it works, sometimes I fail a lot. So I would acknowledge that it's not a straightforward process, but I would encourage teachers to try their attempt, give their own attempt. It might be enriching and it might be, and we do make a point to share it in multiple forums so people will learn from your experiences as well. So thank you here. Now we'll probably move to the question session.
I request the participants to raise their questions one by one to the resource person. You can unmute yourself.
They can unmute us, yes. I have given the permission to unmute.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Sir, my name is Abid Raza, speaking from Punjab. Sir, please, could you give me a brief about what is data-driven, sir? Sir, actually, I'm not understanding. I'm a humanities student. Data-driven.
What is data-driven is that, for example, what's the reading speed of your student? This you cannot, if you're using a platform, for example, let's say you can use a reader. For example, you can see how much time my students are taking to complete this task. This you don't need to ask the student. This will be there in the backend data. So you can see a pattern that 10 students are completing the task in 15 minutes. 10 students are finishing the task in 20 minutes. Then there are 10 students who are finishing in 30 minutes. Then next time when you are designing, then you will know what kind of difficulty level you can give. That is one kind of inference you can from the data. Who is doing faster, or what kind of, whether they're finding it difficult, all these things the data will give you. That's what we mean by data. So there is a computer set data, am I right? So that with that data, you can infer a lot when you have large classroom. That is what we mean by data driven.
Okay. Sir, how can I use in my pedagogy or in teaching? How can I?
In which context you teach, sir? In which course you teach?
Sir, I am teaching mass communication, sir. Genz, mass communication.
Okay. What in specific in mass communication do you talk about? The oral mass communication or written mass communication?
Print media, sir.
Print media. Great, sir. Wonderful. So, for example, what is the objective of this course? Would you like to? What is your objective of this mass communication?
Sir, could you please give me, for example, like just a digital media data driven like that?
Okay. What you can think of doing is that, like, for example, you can put a compendium of articles. If you focus on more on print media, you can see if the students are able to, you give one reading passage from editorial, one reading passage from a reporting, one reading passage from a featured, and you see is their reading speed same across. Are they able to get it? Now, let's say you give, let's say 10 MCQ questions for each of this one. You will see that in editorial, students will get 5 marks. When you are giving a reporting, they might get 9 marks. But when you are doing a featured magazine article, they may be something like 7 or 8. So this, what do you infer from this data, sir?
There is a difference in the number, or there is a difference in the data. There
Yeah,
is a
what is, as an educational print media educationist, what do you see there? What is the inference you get as a teacher?
inference I'm not getting, sir. Actually, my English is not very
Yeah,
rich,
no
sir.
issues, no issues. No, my inference would be that students still haven't mastered the understanding of editorial writing. They are finding
Okay.
the reporting is very easy for them. So then I will take this inference and I might increase the number of editorials and reduce the number of news reporting articles which I give to them.
Okay, sir.
This is kind of inference you can get from the data itself, either computer driven data or it can be the driven data, or else if you can see, okay, per student is taking 20 minutes to read a editorial article, but they're taking only 10 minutes to read a report writing. This is the inference you can get.
Okay, sir, I got it, sir.
This is what you can do with, and this will definitely enrich you as a teacher.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, the Rammurthy said your comment is very valid comment. Yes, I thought the audience might be very general, so I had more examples from all disciplines. Definitely, I will make maybe next time when I do it, I'll try to keep it to English. Thank you for the comment. Any other questions, sir? Please, you can ask. Feel free to ask your questions. It is an ongoing process. EduTech learning is not, don't always keep technology as a center. Keep pedagogy in the center and methodology in the center. Then choose the one which is suitable for you. Don't go get carried away by the technology. It's a combination. It's a combination. That is what we need to work. And something will work for me, something will not work for you. You also need to discover who you are as a teacher. And that is where it will help you to place yourself in this EduTech environment. But EduTech, as I say, it's too much of time consuming from a teacher. As a teacher, I also feel sometimes that why do I need to do all? Why don't I just go with just lecture-based learning? But it needs, we need to try if we feel the learning has to be engaged, because the learners have changed a lot. Learners do have an expectations from us.
So may I please?
Yes, sir, please.
Sir, my curiosity is in 2 parts.
Yes.
Number one, I am teaching in a tribal area.
Okay,
my
sir.
students don't use AI.
Okay.
So what can I do to make them use AI? Number two, as a teacher, how should I use, or what tools should I use to use AI?
Can you give me some bit of context? Which course you teach? What do you teach to them? What is available in the school?
English language and literature.
English language and literature. And you say language course is a general English course, or you teach Shakespeare or literature courses?
I teach special also in literature also, and in language I teach linguistics, phonetics, and everything.
Okay. I will answer one by one. I am taking an example of a literature class. Okay. Do your students have mobile phones with them?
No, sir, they don't have.
They don't have. Do they have access to mobile phones, or do they have computers in your institution?
No, actually they belong to tribal area and they don't have mobiles and all that.
Okay, but do you have some projector or things in your classes?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. In that case, it's whatever the resources you have. Maybe you download lots of videos for them. Maybe imagine you are doing a literature class. So what you can do is that you can split your literature class like this. For example, you don't go and start immediately read your literature. Maybe you find some 10 relevant videos. Maybe don't give a long video, maybe 10-minute video. Ask them to watch it in the class before you go multiple times. Maybe make students representation to watch it. Then you go stimulate a discussion in the classroom, then start reading it.
Yes, sir, I do that.
So that is a simple way of integrating it, because when students don't have access to technology, you can make them do it there itself. Or else,
yes.
For example, you can have interactive polls in the class.
Yes, sir.
Online polls you can, but maybe they will not be responding it because they don't have a mobile, but they can orally respond. what do they do? So that is possible. So sometimes if they wanted to, in a literature class, maybe you can also ask them to do a skit, ask them to record it, or them to make it more. As I said, it's pedagogy. Here in this case, I say technological integration is very less, but still you can try it, like using these kinds of tools. Maybe if they have access to YouTube, maybe you can put it in the YouTube also. That is possible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. There are a few
hello,
questions.
sir. I am
Yes.
Akem Tohdulalam. If you kindly allow me, then I have a question to you, sir.
Please go ahead, sir.
Sir, I am working as a PhD research fellow at Chittagong University of Engineering Technology, Chuet, Bangladesh, and I am taking class in vocational level and diploma level in Polytechnic Institute of Bangladesh. So I have an observation to you, sir. That is, do you think the use of AI should be a limited limited portion for the student of the vocational level? Because what I observe, they are doing their assignment directly use the AI for example, for environmental engineering or some literature type courses. But I think for diploma level, it's okay. But in vocational level, that means the entrance level, skill entrance level, or matriculation level, it seems sometimes very difficult because they are directly preparing their assignment by using AI like ChatGPT or like that. And what happened actually, they don't get the real essence of that knowledge, and it creates sometimes difficult for us to assess the particular student what actually he learned. So do you think the use of AI should be level restricted for at least the graduate level or below graduate level?
It is very difficult as having a blanketed plan. What I suggest is that, for example, this is the same problem I face also in my context. What I do is that I give the topic day before, assignment topic. Now I say, whatever you want to prepare everything and bring it. Then they have everything in the table. I give them 2 hours time. Now they have to handwrite their assignment, where I'll make sure that no internet connection is there. But they can search previous day. They can generate as much of content they can generate from ChatGPT, and they can download it. But if when I read it, I know when they copied from ChatGPT. So here you can use ChatGPT as a scaffolding tool and make sure that students are writing. They can take help, but they cannot outsource their thinking. So look at the process, and you try to put a new system where AI is also included, but you are making sure that they write also. So you maybe can put some techniques like that to help them use AI, but at the same time not extensively depend on AI. So you ask yourself why your students are depending more on AI. Is it because they cannot think? Are they really not having language? Where then maybe reduce the assignment level. Maybe don't give an essay. Maybe give a small paragraph. So that might encourage them. Don't give very cognitively challenging tasks, which will be very difficult for them to deal with. That will be one suggestion.
Okay.
But we cannot completely say that AI environment can be stopped. But AI, only thing always I say to my students is, if you are outsourcing your thinking to AI, then you are making a mistake. AI is learning and you are not learning. That is what we may have to emphasize, and we cannot ignore AI completely. That is my perspective.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It's really cool to me, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And there are a few questions. Just a minute, sir. I'll respond to the question in the chat box, and I'll come to you. I think I'll combine. Can you explain level of applying higher level methods in diverse classroom which have more first generational learners? Okay. I will take all the questions together. See what is possible in your context. For example, these days, if students have mobile, maybe you can send a Google form with questions. That is also possible. Google form where one video is there, then followed by questions. You don't even need to use a large. So same thing I would say, how we can implement EduTech grammar teaching and communication. Again I said it depends on pedagogic practice. For example, what I do is that I give them one paragraph and make certain words highlighted and ask more questions on that or more simulations on that. So you can even create your own materials using AI. At the same time, you can rework on it and give it to your students. So integration of AI tools in teaching English writing skills to government high school students in rural areas is also possible. For example, if students is writing out If you wanted them to use ChatGPT to make corrections, you say, okay, this is the version you have written. Now put it in ChatGPT, see what ChatGPT is giving out. Now compare it. So line by line, you can make them compare, make them more independent. That is also possible. It's entirely up to how the teacher is trying to handle it. But only thing, whenever you use AI, always make sure that student is not exactly just copying things from AI. You can use AI as a scaffolding tool. You can use AI as a reflective tool. Using AI as different methodological tool. The last question, I'll finish it and I'll come to the speaker. Which technological tools best suit students' learning? There is no one fixed tool. First, if you are not confident of the tool, don't go with. Experiment with simple things like Google Form. Think which are very free. Don't go for very paid version. Slowly you will understand. Try to engage yourself with the tool. Then see what is good in this tool, what is bad in this tool. Okay, what I don't like about this tool. Many tools I don't like about it. I don't use it. So many tools which you are not comfortable with, many tools which are paid, don't go into that. So try to use more tools which are easily accessible. Maybe more you familiarizing with the tool is important. Then you will get a pedagogic map. Okay, with this, what can I teach? So Mentimeter is limiting in some way. So then I move to some other tool. For example, I use Padlet. For writing, Padlet is really good. So that can be done. Yes, there are some speakers who have raised your hand. Please. I'm sorry, I stopped you. Please go ahead.
Yes, namaste, sir. Hello, namaste, sir.
Namaste, sir.
Sir, this is Prakash Chandra Prabhakar from Madhubani, Bihar.
Yes.
Sir, my question is, while I have any doubt, any questions, when I am searching on Wikipedia, there is no such answers like if I am searching local, any writers, anything else. So I'm not getting result from the Wikipedia, but while I am searching on ChatGPT, I am getting answers. So should I believe on ChatGPT or not? Is it means I have a doubt that about the ChatGPT?
For which purpose you are going to use this search materials, or what is the purpose of the searching? Are you going to use it for writing? Are you going for research writing? Are you taking it to your classroom? What is the purpose of this?
Yes, sir. While I'm searching about the Indian writers, for net purpose. Actually, I'm preparing for UGC net competitive examinations, and I am also preparing for PhD entrance examinations. So while I'm searching about the Bihari writers, any local writers, so I am not getting result from the Wikipedia, but I am getting result from the ChatGPT. So should I believe on that? Yeah, not.
ChatGPT, you can use it, first get the understanding, then go to the source and check it with multiple sources. ChatGPT has lots of hallucination, and it may work sometimes, it may not work also, but you cannot trust what is given there. But it's a very effective tool of communication. Let me say what I do with ChatGPT so you'll be able to understand. What I do is that I take 3 newspaper articles. I wanted to create multiple choice questions for my students. When I put it in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to give 10 questions, it gives me all kinds of irrelevant questions. Now I have a very long instruction saying this is how you have to give first 3 questions on vocabulary, and which vocabulary I give a very specific. Still it makes mistakes. Then it gives me 40-50%. Then I take it out, I read it, I edit it, I again do it. So what is the benefit is that initially I used to read the whole paragraph, prepare my own MCQs. It will take 3 hours of time. Now, because of ChatGPT, I'm doing the same work, but I'm using AI as a expediter tool, and now I'm able to finish this activity in 1 hour. That's the difference. Similarly, you have to use for your preparation. Don't use it as a scaffolding tool. Check it, ask it to give for a reference. Go and check the original reference also.
Okay, what is like if I'm using internet, Wikipedia and ChatGPT, and there is also AI kind of thing. So, which is more believable platform where I can get correct and genuine
Even
answers?
you can say that give me a source. In ChatGPT, you can ask for a source citation. Go that it will give you a link and you can go and check it there. What I'm saying is that ChatGPT is better. You cannot compare ChatGPT with Wikipedia because ChatGPT is giving lots of neural networks. But we cannot be very sure whether the information is completely right. You have to double check that.
Okay, sir.
Check it with
okay,
the textbook.
Other than ChatGPT and
there are so
Wikipedia,
many tools like Cloud AI is there, Gemini is there, There are so many tools have come, and there are so many research tools have come, specific research tools like Research Rabbit, and there is umpty numbers, sir. Every day some tool is coming, and most of them are free, some of them are user based. So we are in an age where AI is exploding, but we need to know how to use the AI with proper precision, and some of them have very good useful tools, I would say. It reduces our time, but it's not, make sure that nothing, don't take any AI for granted. That's what would my suggestion would be.
Okay, sir. So I can say that the Wikipedia is the more trustable platform, sir.
No, even Wikipedia is editable. These are not trustable sources. These are scaffolding purposes. From after reading on that, just check with which book we can. Once, if for example, let's say you are talking about TS Elite list of webs. Generally, the information given in Wikipedia or when generally the information given in ChatGPT will be right. Factual information, they don't make mistake. If you are asking you to interpret the poem, it may make a wrong interpretation. Depending on what kind of question you ask, then you may have to check this interpretation with a different source. Is that clear, sir? Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Just one question is there.
I enjoyed a lot, sir.
Thank you for your comments, sir. I'm an assistant professor of English and in engineering college where students come mostly from rural background, cannot even frame sentences. Which grammatically correct or they don't make it become difficult to teach in CRT class with this kind of condition. So I want a suggestion how can make the students fluent. It's a common problem in an Indian context. We have mixed proficiency, mixed learner. Simple things. Maybe start with simple things like use certain tools like ask them to write. Maybe if the school or the college is technologically enabled, use Padlet. Maybe start with very sentenced level. Give them very guided tasks. If you have a Moodle, give a Moodle and where students can use it. But Moodle is not easy. Every teacher may not be able to use it. Maybe start with Google Form. Give 5 questions as a takeaway. So these things you can do. Maybe they can look at their mobile and answer it. Maybe it is too much of work on the teacher, but maybe you may have to build their basics first, then they may be able to communicate. Maybe you may have to work on their affective filters. Maybe you can give them some simple speaking routines like asking one of them to give a speech and that can be recorded, transcribed it. Many things are possible. I'm not saying this is exactly it will work. First, identify what's the objective you want to give. Don't have too many objectives. For example, if the student is not able to write a sentence, then keep your expectations very low. Maybe if they are able to are we going to focus on spoken? Are we going to focus on written? Maybe don't have too many objectives. If you want to go on spoken, maybe I encourage them to do some kind of role play activity in the class and ask them to give 1 week, every week, give a role play assignment, very specific instruction. Initially, they may not even produce and ask them to look at it and read it and in the video and ask them to bring it. That is one. Keep your objectives very low. That's what I would say. Yes, there are multiple ways you can try. Maybe you can try experimental activities, but it is not be straightforward. Maybe build on what competency you want to build. If you want to build on their spoken competency, maybe use more conversation words. Show them how the conversations can be made. Okay, how to greet, how to disagree, how to initiate a conversation. So focus on one element so you'll be able to build on. Mostly what happens with us that we try to pack our English class with grammar, spoken, written. It's not possible. We have see what's the time given to you and how you want to test and what your management allows and take a decision accordingly. Yes, sir. Any other questions for me? Yes, I would like to ask a question. What kind of methods will be used by a teacher in English language class to improve? As I say, there's no one right method. I have been teaching for the last 10 years. My experiments have been keep going on. If you could talk about what is your students' needs, what do your students like? Maybe to start with 3 types of activities. Maybe a role play. Maybe every day you should say that you will randomly call one student to give 1 minute speech. First, they maybe if they are speaking only in, don't expect them to speak in English. Maybe ask them to speak in if they are Hindi speakers, ask them to speak in Hindi for 30 seconds, then move on to English. Ask them to say what they have said in Hindi in Tamil or English or whatever the mother tongue is. So it try to be more innovative and try to lift their the motivation level. Then they'll be able to engage slowly. There's always an affective filter towards English, especially students coming from rural background. Maybe we have to work on that. Yes, as sir has rightly pointed, AI tools are like a shortcuts, or like I would say it's an assistant to us. So treat it as an assistant. Don't outsource your core work to assistants. We don't do that, right? That's what we have to use AI tools. Can AI tool be employable? Suppose we can use it. We can use it really well. What I can say is that AI can be used very effectively to build materials. Today we have so much of materials. Everyone can use tailor make the materials according to AI. For example, I can give you one example. I gave a long sentences. I wanted to build a three sentences with 3 clauses. I give that instruction and the AI builds it for me. And I say, which is the topic? I say it should be on the topic of ecotourism, and it builds for me. Then I make corrections. Then I say, give me a sentence with 2 clauses with 1 conditional clause. And this should be the theme. Then it gives me. You have to be very specific with AI. And you can build lots of materials, and with that you can make your students understand. So if whatever you feel the limitation of a textbook can be overcome by a teacher by using these devices. So probably maybe in another session, probably we can talk about how do we use AI to build language teaching materials. Maybe we can do that. Yeah. Yes, I believe I have answered all the questions. Yes.
So with your permission, can we conclude the session, sir?
Yes, yes, madam. I think once again I'd like to thank all the participants. I know it's pretty late. Thank you all, and thank you organizers for inviting me. And it's been an enriching experience for me as well talking to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So on behalf of the organizing committee and all the participants, I extend my sincere thanks to today's resource person, Dr. K.M.C. Kandaraja, sir, for today's highly enriching and thought-provoking session. It was really a wonderful session, sir. We have got a lot of new knowledge in using AI tools and lots of new methodologies that we can implement in our real-time classroom sessions. So the way you began with the foundations of EdTech and gradually led us through a wide spectrum of AI-driven classroom teaching methodologies was truly insightful. So your discussion on advanced digital tools for teaching and learning, that too with practical perspectives on flipped learning, adaptive learning, and EdTech enabled learning environments. So provided us with a clear roadmap for the future of education. So we from our organizing committee, we particularly appreciate your emphasis on role of technology in creating smart, flexible, and learner-centered classrooms. Thank you, sir. Once again, thank you, Dr. Kandaraja, sir, for sharing your expertise, experiences, and valuable insights. Your session has added immense value to this FTP and will certainly have a lasting impact. Sorry, I didn't switch off my video. Okay. So, yes, sir. So your session has added immense value to this FTP and will certainly have a lasting impact on our academic and professional practices. I also thank our respected dignitaries, organizing committee members, coordinators, and all the faculty participants for their keen presence and lively engagement throughout this virtual session. And we truly appreciate your cooperation in making today's session a meaningful and successful one. We look forward to your continued participation and warmly invite all of you to join us for tomorrow's FTP session as scheduled. So with this, I formally wind up today's session. Thank you and have a pleasant evening. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your...
Madam. Thank you for your, I think, for your introduction, and thank you for concluding the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Have a good evening.
I'll take leave. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.